Welcome back to another video, guys. In this one I'm going to show you a tutorial for this ship, the Black Pearl obviously. I'm going to be honest with you, it is going to be a hard tutorial to follow, especially if you're in survival. It's a very complex build and some of the blocks that I've chosen to use are a bit unusual. I can't really give you I can't really say how many blocks this is. I could just give you the overall block count, but that won't be very useful because it's made up of quite a variety of blocks. But obviously you can use whatever block type you'd like. Just know that you're going to need a lot of blocks to build this. I'm going to show you through the construction stages. It is one of those reverse video tutorials because there's no way that I can memorize this build. It's like writing a 10,000 word essay and then rewriting it word for word. It's just not possible. So you can download the world if this tutorial, for whatever reason, fails to demonstrate what to do. You can also use Planet Minecraft, as I will now demonstrate. So coming on to Planet Minecraft, obviously, you'll come onto this page, and then if you click this and click this one, you can load the ship. So we put this into full screen. You can see the ship obviously in 3D. So if there's anything you don't understand from the tutorial, just come into here, and obviously you can load this up on your phone. So if you're building this on an Xbox or a PlayStation, or whatever you kids use these days, you can come into here and just check for any mistakes. It doesn't matter if you make a few mistakes here and there. It really won't affect the build, but I've also left some of the early construction stages on here as well. So I'll begin the tutorial. So the first part of the build, we're just going to build the 2D stage. As you can see, I'm leaving a diagram, as I do sometimes with these tutorials, in the top right of the screen. So I'm just going to begin here. You can see this is a reverse video, so it might not seem very natural, but as I said, this is the only real way I can make this tutorial, and I think it's nice not to have all those mistakes. Obviously it looks like I'm building it perfectly. I think the diagram really will help here. Personally, I would probably just copy the diagram. I think I will leave commentary throughout this video, despite the fact that I think it's almost 3 hours long, so it's quite a step up from those statue videos. I think I'll have to just talk about something kind of irrelevant to the tutorial, honestly, because there's not a lot I can explain. Like, oh yeah, just place a block here and there. You can see pretty much what to do. I suppose I could tell, or I could talk about the block choice. So I'm using, what is it, a block of coal. Basically, you just want a dark block that looks like it would suit the Black Pearl. If you want to use black concrete, you can do that. If you want to use, I perhaps wouldn't use dark oak. I think that's a little bit too bright, but any sort of grey dark block I think would be quite suitable. So a few people asked me how I came up with these sort of techniques or strategies for building ships, and it's really just been a case of trial and error. I forgot to mention the blue glass obviously represents the water level, so again, if you're building in survival, something to consider. You don't have world edit to fix that. So yeah, it's really been a case of trial and error. Some of you will know I started building ships in Minecraft back in 2012. Really because I thought, or I'd actually joined a server with my friend. It was called Aurora Craft or something. So moving on to the second stage. Yeah, this commentary is going to be difficult. So we're going to begin to start the, you can see I made a mistake there, the 3-dimensional stage, so the bird's eye view, or the top plan. Again with diagrams at the top of the screen. I hope they don't get in the way. I hope I've made them large enough. So again, this stage actually, you do want to get this basically perfectly. If you're out by 1 or 2 blocks, it really doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it might make it a little bit more confusing later on, but in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? No. Your ship will look fine if this is wrong. You can see I'm placing these dirt blocks in. You don't really have to follow those if you don't want to. But yeah, my friend and I, we were on the server and we actually made a town. A few people made these really nice looking ships, and this was back in like 2010 or 2011. And obviously it's fairly easy to make a house in Minecraft, but I was always really impressed by the people that can make ships. So I think I made a ship in survival a couple of times, and then I went on creative and made the HMS Victory. You can still see that video on the channel. I think that's my oldest video, and it looks terrible, but you have to start somewhere. And to be fair, that ship isn't too bad. It's just not very realistic. It's very box shaped, as you'd expect. So yeah, completing this 3D stage. And obviously when you start anything you're going to be quite bad, but I find it really kind of, I guess, motivating to see myself improve every time I made a ship in Minecraft. I know it sounds kind of pathetic really, but it is quite enjoyable as long as you're not doing it every hour of the day. If it's in moderation. Making something like this now, it doesn't take me too long. When I make something like this, I generally spend maybe, honestly, about half an hour a day, just consistently. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm done. So it's quite enjoyable, and usually I'm listening to either an audiobook or music at the same time, or sometimes both. So it's quite a relaxing thing to do, and then obviously I can make a video like this. So coming down here, I don't know what this is called, but yeah, I'm using nether brick here just to differentiate it from, well, the other blocks. And then this bit leads up to the cabin. Personally, don't really know much about the Pirates of the Caribbean series. I know the Flying Dutchman and the Black Pearl, obviously. And what's this ship of the line called? Is it like the Endeavour or something? It's like, basically it's a first-rate ship of the line. I've made a third-rate, but I really can't be bothered making a first-rate. It just takes too long. And making a tutorial for a first-rate or even a third-rate, a few people have asked me to make a tutorial for the third-rate. It would just take too long. Like, this has taken almost 3 hours, and the Black Pearl isn't really a big ship, it's a medium-sized ship. It's a very nice one though, I like the design, especially in black. So, just laying out where the cabins are supposed to go. I think the diagram will be really useful here. But it is important to get this basically block for block perfect, as you'll find out later on. I hope this reverse technique's okay. I know it's a little bit off-putting to see me placing blocks in the air, but like I said, it makes it so much easier for me to make the video. And it means you don't have to see any stupid mistakes. And the video is like pretty long already. It would be maybe double if I wasn't to use this strategy. So yeah, I think it's probably the best overall. It's not perfect, but things never are. You have to compromise usually. I think the diagrams help as well, so let me know what you think of that. I obviously don't expect people to listen to this commentary all the way through. I just think I'd prefer it to be, well, filled with something rather than it just being a video of someone deconstructing a ship in reverse. I think that would be a little bit odd without anything in the background. You can see the numbers on the top left, so we're beginning to build the body now. The numbers represent the space between the cannons, or the number of blocks between each cannon port, but that's kind of irrelevant now. I'm just building the rib out of stone. You can do this using the material you intend to use in the end, so like a block of coal or whatever. You don't have to do this, but I felt like I should show you what the cross section of the ship should look like, and then the diagram to the right. You can see how the layers should look once it's complete. It really doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. I'll keep emphasizing that because I know if I was in your position, I'd want it to be perfect, but it really doesn't have to be. You can use your own intuition for a lot of this build, really. But yeah, really don't stress if it's not perfect. Something that I say in most tutorials, to be honest. I think I've got quite a hard job because I tend to make tutorials for things that are quite hard to make. I'm not just making a wooden house that's quite, well, almost a box anyway with a roof and some fancy windows. A lot of these shapes are organic. They're not straight. Pretty much everything on this ship is organic. I suppose the decks aren't, or even the decks have a curve in it, but... So you can see the curvature of the ship there. The ribs, barely basic. You can just do this yourself if you want to, you don't even have to watch this. That's probably what I would do. It's funny, a lot of people, well, some people, they say my voice is quite relaxing, and I really appreciate those comments. So if you're one of those people, I appreciate the fact that you've spent the time to comment that. But also I get comments saying that I don't sound enthusiastic, I sound depressed, which I kind of think it's I don't think maybe it's accurate in some of my videos, but in the others, I think people are just comparing me to the sort of quite hyper commentators you'll find on YouTube, and I'm never going to be one of those people. I don't think it's not a positive for me to behave in that way. I prefer to just be myself, be quite calm and relaxed, cool, calm and collected. I think because I speak quite closely to the microphone as well, I generally don't shout. I do sort of create this almost ASMR effect, if you know what that is. I don't think there's much need for male ASMR commentators on YouTube. They're just filling this in. I know it's a little bit erratic, this block placement, but I don't feel like there was much of a need to really spend too much time in this. Just get the blocks in, get these sections connected. Yeah, since I made that ship in 2012, I'm not sure how many ships I've made, probably over 100 to be honest. It's a bit ridiculous, honestly, but it's quite satisfying seeing how I've improved. I know it's not it's not the most useful skill, but like I said, it's kind of relaxing when you've got an audiobook or just music in the background and you're just doing it for half an hour a day. It's not the worst thing that you can do. Like I said, it means I can make tutorials like this, so it has some like utility. The reason I've been uploading a little bit more, obviously lockdown, so I've had a little bit more extra time, a little bit more sort of motivation to make these videos, because I know more people are watching videos on YouTube. And I actually got a new computer last year, almost a year ago, I think. And yeah, it went together really well. I'm actually fairly knowledgeable on computer parts. I don't know like the intricacies of how a computer works, but I'm quite knowledgeable, like I said, about the sort of parts that I should choose. So I chose a 3600 from AMD. It's a very affordable CPU. To be honest, for me it's overkill, but because it was only £160 in the UK, why would you buy anything other than that? Like if you buy any less, if you bought a £100 CPU, it will be 4 cores, 12 threads. So yeah, I felt like I may as well spend that money and buy the 3600. And I only bought a 1650 Super, which, yeah, it's not the best GPU. I definitely wouldn't have bought the 1650 because, well, that's really not good enough. But yeah, the system went together really easily. Assembled it myself, as you'd expect, and it's doing everything I want it to do. My old system really was in need of being replaced. I'm not sure why I kept it for so long. It's just laziness, really, if I'm being honest. And I've got 2.5 terabytes of SSD storage now, which means no mechanical hard drives in the system. So not only is it faster, but it's quite quiet. So if I'm doing recording like this, you might be able to hear a little bit of fan noise, but not a whole lot. The case for it's quite nice as well, from Be Quiet. I think my friend recently bought a system, a pre-built, and there's nothing wrong with buying a pre-built. I think that's what most people should do, but I think in my case I have quite particular needs, and I'm quite comfortable with putting it all together. So it's it's useful to learn about that sort of stuff. Obviously, if something goes wrong and you've got a pre-built, you can fix the issue. So it can be awkward. Let's say if the motherboard for whatever reason breaks, it's hard to diagnose something like that unless you have loads of parts at your disposal. But generally, like, I've had power supplies break on me, graphics cards. It's generally not as hard as you think to diagnose these issues. Parts are surprisingly reliable, at least in my experience. So just completing these ribs. It is going to be a long video. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, to be honest. I'm kind of struggling now. I'm thinking, oh god, is this a mistake doing this commentary? But I'm sure I can come up with something. Obviously people are going forwards and backwards, so as long as you have some kind of voice to listen to, maybe it will improve the quality of the video. I don't know. The other reason I'm doing this is to check for mistakes. So my idea is to maybe do, I'm not sure, 40 minutes a day, just talk about nonsense, really, whilst I check for any errors. I don't think there are any errors, but if there are, then you can understand, because it's a very long video, as I've mentioned multiple times now. A few people I know, they quite like the idea of, see, that was a mistake then, they like the idea of making a podcast, and I think it's a good idea. They're quite interesting people, but the problem is people don't know who they are, so it's not going to attract any viewers, honestly. It's a very difficult thing, really. Maybe I wouldn't say difficult, but I think some people just have a talent for that sort of stuff, for comedy or podcasting, just the ability to talk and be entertaining. It's not something you can teach, really. something that you have to be born with it. So I don't know. I know when I started YouTube, obviously a lot of people like YouTube, so this might be interesting. I was really insecure about how my voice sounded. I think I started YouTube when I was about, when I say started, I uploaded a video with my voice when I was about 14 or 15. I think I was 15 actually. And obviously being a teenager, I was a bit insecure about the way I sounded. My microphone quality was terrible as well. I remember using Audacity, which is what I still use now, and I made it sound even worse somehow. Honestly, the quality was terrible. I think some of you might even remember that. That's one of the reasons I've deleted those old videos, because I cringe when I think back to, well, even think back to those videos. I can't have them still on this channel with that kind of terrible voice quality. But yeah, doing these videos, obviously I don't do them too often, but it's given me a lot more confidence about the way I sound, and I think it's improved the way that I speak, because when you speak for a prolonged period and then you listen back, voice broke then slightly, you can hear all the mistakes in your, not just your voice, but the sort of like I did then, the filler words like so. It's something that I have to work on constantly. It's weird as well. I think my accent was more, I'm not sure if in other countries you might not have such a distinct class divide, but I think my accent was quite working class, or it sounded more working class a few years ago. Whereas now I suppose it sounds a bit more middle class, which I prefer, honestly. So coming up to the stern of the ship, this bit will be maybe a little bit easier, if I can remember. Again, this bit really doesn't matter. Yeah, if you're doing YouTube, I think one of the main benefits is it improves the way that you speak, the way that you communicate and basically transmit your ideas to other people. And obviously it might improve your self-esteem. I'm someone that has like generally I do worry about I do worry about what other people think of me. I think everybody does, but maybe I do a little bit more than most. So yeah, it won't help, it won't boost your self-esteem in every way, but in this particular way it will. I think it's really important when you're starting a channel to have a particular niche. I know a lot of people that, well, not a lot of people, but a few people have started channels but are not really any different to anyone else, you know, generic gaming channels. I'm not going to put anyone down because it's not like this channel is very big, but I think just try to be different, offer something new, obviously offer something entertaining. I think very few people really have interesting things to show. As bad as that sounds, most people's lives just aren't very interesting. Most people's personalities, like I'm sure people that know them find them interesting, but I think when you broadcast yourself on YouTube, you have to stand out. You see here the audio isn't on. That's because I forgot to reverse the actual OGG files for the placement of, it's not dirt, it's something else. I think it's like what is it now? Anyway, I forgot to reverse the OGG file, so that's why the audio is not working, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this commentary, because I know if it wasn't for or if it's not for this commentary, it's going to be quite a boring video if your intention isn't to just follow the tutorial. So just filling that up there. And then moving on to this, I've lost track of the stage. Oh, we're placing the cannon ports. Oh no, it's not. Removing this. So I'm using the replace tool in World Edit, like I said. Yeah, so if you're doing a YouTube channel, be entertaining. That's pretty obvious. Do something new, offer something new. It may be, like I said, that you probably don't have anything to offer, and that sounds quite harsh, really. But like, I don't know, try to, I don't know, maybe educate yourself, learn a new skill, and then teach other people that on YouTube. Doesn't have to be anything incredible, really. Like, I'm making a tutorial of how to build a ship, so if you're using Minecraft as an example, don't do a generic castle or house, because people have done that to death. Do something different. Some people have asked me to do like a Viking statue. Yeah, people have done that before, so I'm not sure about that. I could do a bigger one, I guess, but I'm not trying to sound like an expert. I'm honestly not. You can tell that by the fact that this channel is quite small. But yeah, just try to do something different. Maybe I could do a video of how to make that Kraken that I made 3 years ago. I don't think anyone's done that, so yeah, try to do something new. Or if I think I can improve on something like how to build a ship in Minecraft, for example, of course I'll upload a video on that. I think that video that I made, which you should use if you're struggling with this, is I was really happy with that. I actually wrote the script for that video. I think it was something like 5,000 words. So it took me quite a long time to write and quite a long time to make that video. But I think it's going to be fairly successful. I hope it's helped a lot of people. I know the original shipbuilding guide was relatively popular. So placing the cannon ports, so you can see 5 blocks between the actual middle, and then for the rest it's just 4 blocks. This does need to be block for block perfect, so if you do make a mistake here, you should be able to correct it in the next stage with the decks. So you can see it's not too difficult, really. Well, I hope you agree anyway. Right, I think that's it. And then do I do the other side? Yeah, so do something different. I think it's nice to hear that people say that this channel's quite unique. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of Minecraft content on YouTube. It's not really something that interests me. Back in my teenage years, yeah, it perhaps interested me then, or it certainly did. I was quite interested in redstone mechanics when I was playing on various survival servers, but it's not something that I look at now. I did make those command blocks, but other than that, I don't really do it anymore. So moving to the decks, this should be fairly easy. I'm going to use oak slabs, but you can use whatever slab type you'd prefer. I know in the real version, or I'm fairly sure in the real version they did use quite a bright coloured material. So I think oak slabs would be the best choice. Seems to make the most sense. I'm using like concrete blocks there, so you can see how many blocks are between each layer, if that's confusing. I really don't know how I'm going to fill up this commentary. I was going to write a little list, or quite a large list of things to talk about, but I haven't really bothered with that. I was going to say, it is funny how people say that I sound depressed. Yeah, I do suffer from depression sometimes, or have done in the past, and I don't think that comes across in the video. If I'm in a bad mood, it's not like I'm going to talk like I'm really depressed. I think it's just because when I make these videos, I speak in quite a relaxed tone, whereas most people are used to the, I would say, quite fake tone that other people create, so quite an energetic tone. I think that's quite. I wouldn't say childish, but it's. I think I already said this, but it's definitely not me. I wouldn't imagine myself doing that kind of voice. But then I do get, as I said, I do get some positive comments. I think when it comes to keeping your mood up, doing things like exercising, that's something I do quite often, every day, and sticking to a good routine. It's surprising how the simple things can have the biggest difference, really. You can take all kinds of medication, but then if you're not, as I said, if your diet isn't good, if you're not socialising, if you're not exercising, if you don't have a good routine, or if you're just not in an environment or if you're not doing things that you can be proud of, if you just have a miserable existence, basically, you're obviously going to be miserable. So yeah, I try to put myself in the best possible position. You can see I'm doing the deck around the Beakhead there, where the doors are. So I think those are the decks done. Once you've done that, you can just connect those pieces, and you can see I've kind of skipped here. So I've connected all the decks, and then you can just use stairs to prop up the cannons. I'm sorry if this is a little bit erratic. Obviously it's taken me a long time to record this, and if it sounds a bit lazy for me to say this, but it's not worth going back and redoing this, because, well, I think you get the point here, hopefully. You just put the cannons in on top of the decks, and you can use stairs to prop them up. So yeah, it's really not too complicated. Making these kind of videos, I wouldn't say, well, you could say it's kind of therapeutic. You might say it's a bit of waste. It's a bit of a waste of time doing this commentary, but I honestly don't mind. Some time for me to relax, I guess. Yeah, dark oak stairs there. Top of the stair blocks. This tutorial does leave out the interior. I haven't mentioned that already, I don't think, but the interior just takes so long. In the past, I've just avoided interiors, really. But recently I have put in the third rate ship of the line, I did do a full interior, and I think I did it quite well, honestly. It just it takes so long to make, and I think for a ship like this, if you really want an interior, you can just do it yourself, honestly. People are more bothered about the exterior. At least that's what I hope. So yeah, cannons. I think the real version had 4 cannons at the back here, but you can only fit 2. I remember back in the day, I didn't really know which cannon type to choose. Obviously this is quite a basic cannon type. There's just a stair block and then 2 dart blocks to represent the metal. You can come out with like fancier designs, but obviously in reality cannons are quite, well, they're even smaller than this. So I know a lot of people use anvils, and I think that's quite a good idea, maybe. For whatever reason, I just prefer this. To be honest, I haven't really tried anvils. Maybe I'll use them in the future. See what they look like. So, doing the stairs here. So you can see those stairs are going over that cannon. So the decks really aren't too complicated, and then you can put some stairs down here. I apologise if the reverse video footage is a bit confusing. Like I said, it's something that doesn't just make it easy for me to do this, or easier, it makes it possible. I don't think I'd be able to do a video like this if it wasn't for this technique. It would probably take me about just a ridiculous amount of time to make a decent tutorial for a ship like this. Oh, so now we're doing the railings. So I'm using nether brick for this, and starting on the back. So just some supports there, using stairs, very simple. You can see I made a mistake there with the reverse video. Yeah, this bit's pretty straightforward, and you'll find that the ship looks a lot better after this stage. It doesn't just look like, well, we're using stairs and half slabs, so generally once you've used stairs and half slabs, it gives you a lot more detail. And then for the stairs there, using some trapdoors. Trapdoors are a really good addition. I don't know when they were added, the like multicoloured trapdoors, but I'm really glad they have been added because it gives you so many more options. It's funny to get excited about something like that. It's just a trapdoor, but for someone like me who does these kind of intricate builds, it really does make quite a lot of difference. And then that might not be too easy to follow, in all honesty, but once again, don't try to get it perfect, or don't stress about getting it perfect. As long as it looks something like that and you think it looks good, then that's absolutely fine. So a few people, I think I've already mentioned this as well, a few people have said that they'd like to see a ship of the line tutorial, and I have considered making one, but like I said before, considering this is almost 3 hours long, or it might be 3 hours long by the time I've edited it and everything, but the ship of the line is a lot bigger than this, probably in terms of length, maybe like 30% longer, so basically it's just quite a bit bigger. And I think generally you should just make your own ship. I know it's kind of ironic me saying that, because here I am making a tutorial for this, but when it's something as big as a ship of the line, you really just should make your own. Maybe I could make a basic guide on how to make one, give you the like diagrams and give you a few like blueprints to help you along, but I probably won't make it in this way. Yeah, I messed up that with the video. It's really hard to, because I'm doing this for 3 hours, like I keep mentioning, it's hard to keep up that mental focus. Eventually I'm going to make a mistake and then I'll receive complaints. I do. It's funny, most of my viewers, you hear all these, I wouldn't say horror stories, but people are generally quite horrible over the internet because they're anonymous. But the people that comment on my channel, apart from the ones that are complaining that the tutorial's unclear, my subscribers are really nice. I think I'm lucky to have the followers that I do. And it is kind of ironic because I don't watch a lot of Minecraft content. I can't really give back to the community, if that makes sense. Obviously when I do watch another video, so we're up to the cabins now. So I'm using a replace tool. Obviously you can do this in pretty much the same way in survival. So every 2 blocks you want a line. I'm using brown, terracotta, I think that is. And then you can see the diagram on the top right as well, so you can see what you're aiming towards. And then what is it? So we're using dark oak. See, I can't really remember how I built this. This is one of the problems with builds like this. I built this ship maybe, well, a few months ago, and it's really intricate, so the idea of me reassembling this or rebuilding it block for block without too many mistakes is very unlikely. So it's a bit complicated down there, but on the sides it's really not too bad. As long as you get the windows in the right place, they should come together fine. So a 2x3 window there, and then another one on the same level, and then the last one should be a block above, just like so, and then on the back the same level as the last window on the side, and then a 3x3. I know the Black Pearl, I think it has 5 windows in real life, but obviously I've set out to simplify it to 3. It's quite challenging, obviously, to do this, to simplify it so that it looks good. And I quite like that. You can't build it exactly the same as it is in real life. You have to use your own kind of intuition. So I'm using, what is it? I can't remember the block now. Whatever this block's called. It's kind of ridiculous that I don't remember the name, but there you go. So using a lot of stairs here. If you're in, I should have mentioned this before, if you're in a later version and you have access to, what's it called now, Blackstone? It might be Blackstone. You could use that, because I know the real life version doesn't have this brightly coloured, or this bright colour on the back. So if you want to, you could use, I think it is Blackstone, or maybe Black Rock, whatever it is. You can use those black slabs and stairs if you would prefer a more realistic model, but I guess that's the beauty of this tutorial. You can just do whatever you want, really. Yeah, this took me a while to make. I remember spending a long time in the cabin working out which design looked the best. And then you see those stairs, they connect to some supports later on. So I think that's it. I'm moving over to the, yeah, there we go. Moving on to the, I think this is the final stage for the cabin. So I'm going to begin with just 3 buttons. So it's just a little bit of ornamentation. Oh yeah, you see the walls, those kind of green walls, you should add those in. I must have forgotten to add those in for whatever reason, but that's pretty easy. So another brick again. Generally when you're making a house or a ship or whatever, you don't want to use too many colours, just have a colour palette that's not too limited but not too complicated. Using these trapdoors again. Feel free to add your own design to this as well. To be fair though, this did take me a long time to create, so it might be hard for you to create an equivalent design. I'm not saying that I'm like a better builder than you, but I'm just saying that this took me a while, so for you to come out with an equivalent design might also take you a while. So put some gates down as well, just some open gates. You might think, well, what's the purpose of this? Well, really it's just ornamentation. I don't like too much, but with something like a captain's cabin, particularly a fantasy one like this, I think it's nice to add quite a lot of random little details. That's quite, like I said, I'm quite happy with how this cabin looks, how the ship looks overall. So there's some cobble supports, so a stair and a wall down below. Really not too hard. It's funny when you see the video reversed in this way, it makes it look it makes the build look easy, but it's it's honestly not. It takes me so long to come up with these designs. Maybe not so long, but it takes me longer than you think for me to create these things. And then yeah, those green blocks, whatever they're called. So I think that's about it. Then over to the lanterns. think. Yeah, there we go. Again, the diagram on the top right. So the middle one should be 1 block out. And then, what is it? A sea lantern? I think that's a sea lantern. And then place some walls around those. So a pretty simple design. Again, like, I think you could be quite creative with this if you want to modify this design. If you want to add some trapdoors to it, feel free to do that. But once again, like, be aware, it did take me a long time to come out with this design. It's not that I'm going to be offended by it, it's just don't expect it to be easy to improve, because I went through so many different styles and this one seemed to be the best. But maybe your taste is different to mine, I don't know. I would like to update this ship. Once I actually move on to, I can't even remember what version I'm using, but once I update to the version with Blackstone, I'd quite like to update it using Blackstone. It wouldn't take me long at all. It wouldn't necessarily look better, it would look different, but that would be interesting. So, moving on to the Beakhead, using cobblestone. Again, Blackstone would be probably better for this. But I hope you followed that okay. Again, it doesn't need to be block for block perfect, but you can see I'm leaving half a block gap in between, and then the third layer I'm leaving a block gap between. I think that's a block, yeah. And then you can, with some cobble walls, you can add these vertical layers. So really not too complicated. Once again, on the other side, first layer. It really did take me a long time to come up with this. Probably maybe 20 minutes to create this, whereas when it's reversed it takes me about 1 minute. It's ridiculous, really. So the third layer again, and then the walls. It's interesting because I think this ship looks a lot better in black. I do have the Wicked Wench version. I don't think it looks as good. But the figurehead here, using those green blocks again. I can't remember what they're called. It's like begins with P, P-R-I something. And then I've done the arm like that, so it looks like it's outstretched a little bit, but there's only you can only do that so well, I guess. What is it now? Oh, so the hull details. So coming to the cabin, using dark oak. So pretty simple. That's for the the shrouds later on. And then I'm gonna create this line using nether brick. Now again, I would probably prefer blackstone if I had the option. And then this dark oak structure again is for the shrouds. So after that, continuing this line. This bit really doesn't have to be perfect, as long as the curve is in line with the ship. It is kind of important for these dark oak structures to be in line though, just with the mast. And then you can wrap this, I'm using half slabs again, you can wrap this line to the front as well. And then what is this? Oh, this is the anchor. So stone and dark oak. So that's a really simple design, really easy to make. And then you can put these cannon ports in, or make them look a little bit fancier. So just make them 1.5 blocks tall by putting those half slabs in. That should be a nether brick half slab, by the way. And then you can just put a trapdoor in to act as the whatever you'd call it, the kind of like, I don't know, flap, or I'm not sure what you'd call it. Just so that you could close it. So if the ship isn't in combat, those can be closed. So something like rain or seawater can't splash into the ship. And then these supports down the side. You obviously need a ladder. I'm not sure why they haven't added in different coloured ladders. You know, an oak ladder, a spruce ladder, etc. It's quite strange. And then the second line, starting there. Hopefully the diagram is useful here. I think it should be quite useful. So it should connect here. And then I'm using that concrete strip again to show you how many blocks should be in between. And then you can start it from there. Meet in the middle, hopefully. There you go. So again, don't stress if it's not perfect, but something like that. If there is a problem later on, you can easily fix that. Absolutely no problem. And then obviously you can just do the same on the other side. Just rotating around it. Yeah, I think the anchor looks really good. Best feature of the ship maybe. So yeah, starting with the support this time. So since I started actually building things in creative in 2012, I pretty much only did ships. Or for the first year I did a mixture of things, but mostly ships, and then for about for quite a few years I only did ships. And then I thought I made a Chinese junk, I think it was in 2017. And I thought, well, I think I've done pretty much every ship now. I'm kind of bored of doing these, so I started building. I built this house, I kept it quite basic. I just made a medieval house, and I didn't really have high expectations for it, being pretty much the first thing, the first land structure that I had made in many years, but it turned out very nice. I still quite like that one. It's interesting. If you're building ships in Minecraft, it pretty much covers every skill, or most skills. So obviously you have to build a captain's cabin, which is very similar to building a house, but it's harder, it's more challenging because it's on an angle and it's slightly organic. And then obviously you have the organics of shipbuilding, such as the sails, the hull, various other things. It's like building a house but in hard mode, if that makes sense. And then you have things like really odd things like a beakhead and rigging. It's quite a diverse. There are so many things on a ship. It's quite a diverse challenge. So if you want to get better at building things in Minecraft, I would recommend building ships, although that's obviously coming from a biased source. It's funny in that like top or best builds of the decade, a lot of people say, oh, this guy's biased towards ships. Well yeah, I can't really help that. It's not so much that I'm biased, or it wasn't that I was biased in that video. It's that a lot of the builds that I see are ships. So in selecting my top 10, I don't know, it was probably like 4 of the top 10 were involved a ship. So it wasn't that I went through 50 and 6 of them were ships and 4 of them I selected for the top 10. It was just that already about 40% of the top like 50 were ships. So, and that's because of my like biased viewing, if that makes sense. I don't know why. Oh, here we go, the deck stage. So the intricate details. I don't know why I prefer ships. I suppose it's because I've made them a lot myself, so I appreciate the effort that goes into them. And it's like I say, it's the overall kind of like variety of skills that you need to build one. I think it's quite interesting. And unlike a lot of structures, a ship has quite a defined purpose. It's a bit like a car, really. Obviously it has to be functional, but it also has to be aesthetically pleasing. And I think those two work quite nicely together. So generally, if the ship's really efficient, it will look quite aesthetically pleasing. So if it's just a big hunk of wood and it's not hydrodynamic, it won't look very nice. Whereas if it's really hydrodynamic, it will generally look quite nice anyway. And then you can just add colourful details like the cabin and beakhead. So I think for that reason, I quite like it. Whereas obviously a house has to be quite functional. Obviously it has to keep the rain off people's heads and everything else. But I think for a ship, it has to be. It's a lot more important for it to be efficiently made. Perhaps because, well, it has to be lightweight to begin with. It's a lot more finely tuned, whereas a house, does it really matter if part of the house is overbuilt? No, it will just last longer. Whereas if a ship is overbuilt, it will be too slow in the water. So it's a lot more, it involves a lot more precision. So making these, I can't remember what they're called now. I think they're just called hatches. So obviously the sailors can pass cargo up and down or through this deck without going up the stairs. And then on top of these you can place some lifeboats. This might be slightly hard to follow. To be honest, I don't really like the design for these lifeboats, but for this scale, this is the best I could do. So I was limited to, what is it? It's technically 6 by 2 blocks. So they do look a little bit narrow. Because of that reason, I wasn't able to round them off. They don't look as realistic as they perhaps should. I think they look okay. If you want to come out with your own design, feel free to do that. I won't be offended. A lot of people say on their tutorials, "Oh, make sure you leave a sign with credit given." You don't have to give me credit for this. I really don't care. You can say it's your own design if you want to. I don't mind at all. So some kind of state table there, or I don't know, some kind of platform. This is the thing with building in Minecraft, or just modelling in general, I suppose. You have to use your own intuition quite a lot. Make things up, really. Because you won't know like what things, or you won't know the exact design of everything that you make, so you just have to make things up to fill out the space. So those are the decks done. Moving on to the masts now, so the diagrams are going to be really useful. Again, there's not a lot I can say about this. I was thinking after I finished this build, you could make better crow's nests. So in real life, the sailors would climb up the ropes or the shrouds using rat lines and sit on these things. So I'm not sure what they're called, but if they're kind of expanded a little bit so that you can sit on them or stand in them, they're called crow's nests. I'm not sure where the name comes from. I suppose they might just look a bit like a crow's nest, thinking about it. You can see the back mast, that's or the mizzen mast. The first section is 11.5 blocks, so it's really 11 blocks. But the first block is, or block 0, is just half exposed because it's surrounded by half slabs. So yeah, it really doesn't matter if you get this wrong by 1 or 2 blocks. It's just a guide, really. Like, no one's going to notice. No one's going to say, hang on, that section's 1 block out. Doesn't look realistic at all. I did base this model off a diagram, as you'd expect. But I don't know if the diagram's accurate. It looked accurate to me. So yeah, And just do your own thing if you'd like. And you can finish it off with this flagpole. It's weird how the particles were actually visible then with that flower pot. Obviously I've disabled them for the rest of the blocks, so it looks something like, it looks more normal. I really hope those diagrams are useful, honestly. I think I would probably just use those, because I'd be too lazy to follow a video like this. I don't think the video is too bad actually, or too boring. I think it's kind of interesting to see how the ship comes together bit by bit, how it gradually develops from, well, nothing to a completed build. I was wondering if, thinking about artificial intelligence, if someone could make an AI that could build. Obviously you have AI that can draw art and create artwork, two-dimensional artwork, and create music. It'd be interesting if, it's probably already the case, but if you could have an AI that could make a 3D model, perhaps even in Minecraft, it'd be interesting to see how it would compare with something like this. Could an AI outmatch me in terms of building ships? I'm sure in the future they will be able to. It'd be interesting to see how it would make it compared to me, what kind of techniques it would use. So anyway, moving over to the bowsprit, so you can see it's 16 blocks from, I think, the very start. Then you could add these supports in as well. Then some trapdoors. So connecting, these are actually made up, this bowsprit is made up of 2 poles. So you can see I've just made that look like it's wrapped up. Moving over to the mizzen mast. I'm sorry if that was a bit sudden. So made up of 4x3 there. Hopefully you can see that. Using half slabs. So I think that formation is fairly straightforward. And then moving over to, oh sorry, that's not the mizzen mast, that's, oh, someone commented, I can't remember your name, but these aren't actually called spars, these are called yards. The spars are things that actually include the mast. So moving over to the yards, you can see I'm leaving measurements for the yards, so it's the length of the yard from the centre. So 7 blocks plus 6, and then 9 plus 8, and then here 15 from the centre, using half slabs again. The reason I'm using half slabs is because in real life they'd be tapered. So now we want 14 on this side. Just like so. Again, really you don't need to get this perfect. As long as it looks reasonably similar to mine, it won't make much difference. I think a lot of people perhaps get fixated on making things perfect, and when something doesn't align, they stress about it. But with these things, just kind of relax, and if something doesn't line up, then just do your own thing, make it work. It shouldn't really be too much of a problem, I think. As long as you make it accurate, like reasonably accurate, it should look very good. Moving on to the front one. Yeah, I hope these diagrams are useful. I think I'm obviously always thinking of ways that I can improve, but I think sometimes you reach the point where you can't really improve very much more. I can't think of many things I could do to improve this tutorial. I suppose maybe more intricate diagrams would be useful. As personally, I would just use diagrams, but with the aid of the video, I don't think that's necessary. And then, where would I fit the diagrams exactly? Before the clip, perhaps. But those are the yards done. Moving on to the shrouds. So using fences, I think fences primarily. You see they don't connect because I'm using World Edit here. And then you see the walls there. Those will obviously connect for you. I would probably prefer to use anvils there if I was in survival without World Edit. But I would do everything else the same. So using fences, remember the fences don't connect, you see, like that. And obviously using that structure we made before. So use anvils instead of those never brick walls. And use the trapdoors and fences. I think they look quite nice. Once again, this bit really doesn't matter too much. As long as you get it to look like mine, don't stress about it. I think these things, well, obviously you should have fun making this, so if you're stressing about making it look perfect and that means it's not fun, then well, maybe don't do that. You see an error in the video there, and there was a slight error in the video there. I'll have to check that later. Obviously it's hard for me to check for errors in a video this long. Like I said, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this commentary throughout, because, well, firstly I can check for errors, secondly I feel like it makes the video a little bit less plain. I think the Black Pearl looks like, I think it's a really nice design. I don't like the Flying Dutchman as much. I think the Flying Dutchman, it sits way too high in the water. It doesn't look realistic at all. Well, it does look somewhat realistic, but if I was to make it, I would probably, or make my own model, I'd probably make it sit slightly lower in the water. I have considered making it. I think I could do quite a good job on it, but it would take me very long. Making a tutorial for it would take me even longer probably, because it's even more intricate than the Black Pearl. Firstly, it's slightly bigger, or slightly taller. If you've seen the captain's cabin, it's got all kinds of shapes going on. It's got kind of foliage covering it, which wouldn't take me too long to explain how to apply that, but yeah, it's the cabin, it's the shape, and it's the beakhead as well. It's really complicated. It's those things. It's not making it myself, it's making a tutorial for it. I could just make the ship, upload a video, a time-lapse video, and that would get a few thousand views. It just wouldn't be worth my time just doing that. I'd have to make a tutorial for it, and that kind of scares me, honestly, going through all that work. So this might take a while in survival. Takes me a while in creative, honestly. Obviously don't build it like this in creative. I use wool to begin with. I line it all up, and then I replace that with fences. Like I was saying, I'm working quite hard on kind of boosting my self-esteem. I don't want to make it sound like I've got really low self-esteem. It's just one of those things that we can all improve in some ways, and like personally, that's something that I've picked up on. Like I said, when you're making YouTube videos, you do tend to improve the way that you speak. At least that's what I found, and it's it's just nice to improve yourself in various ways. I don't really understand how people can live and not improve. For me, that's one of my sort of life goals. It sounds quite deep, really. One of my life goals is to improve myself, but I think it does give my life quite a lot of meaning, to be the best person I can be. I don't really see the point of living without that if you're just declining or stagnating. It's just really satisfying to improve myself. So yeah, I'm actually went back into education. Well, not this year, or this academic year, if that makes sense. Last September. I've always thought I'd do something like engineering because I'm quite logically minded. But I'm actually going to do psychology in university, which it's quite a female-dominated study. It's something like 90% female. So it's quite, obviously it's quite strange. Well, not quite strange for a male to do it, but it's not, obviously not the most common thing. So I'm on a course now with mostly females, which is quite interesting. But I'm not finding it too bad, honestly. It's get on quite well with the class. Some of the topics, like I'm doing literature and sociology at the same time for this year. I don't really think much of sociology. Obviously doing learning about certain ideologies that I don't really want to discuss. I have to be careful what I say on YouTube, I think now, because I've heard that they pick up on certain words and I don't want to say any of those words, and I think maybe some of those ideologies might trigger the like the YouTube algorithm, or not the YouTube algorithm, but the don't know how to describe it, the system that detects these naughty words. It might pick up on one of those ideologies. I don't really know what I want to say now. It's hard to keep this commentary going, honestly. Yeah, I think a lot of those ideologies, they're really extreme forms, they're really extreme opinions. I don't really see how anyone can be subscribed to just one of them, which is the way that the education system makes it seem. Like all of these academics, they only subscribe to one. At least that's the way that they teach it in the first year. Obviously, very few people are 100% one thing. Most people are a range of things, which is what I am. But in terms of the study, I don't see much, application for it. I don't see how it's useful to learn about that kind of thing. I think literature, obviously, fair enough. If you want to be a journalist or whatever, you need to study literature. But I think with poetry, for example, well, it's interesting because I think if I'm reviewing someone's like Minecraft build, I know this is quite a stretch, but so those are the Shrouds though. So the 2D rigging, again, this will be really easy. So if I'm reviewing a piece of art, so I guess you could say a Minecraft build is in a way a piece of art. Depends what it is. If it's really bad, I wouldn't call it art, but something like this, there's a bit of artwork in this, obviously. But with poetry, a lot of people have the idea that poetry and artwork in general is subjective. And yeah, to an extent, people have different tastes. And there's nothing incorrect about that. Someone can't say to you, you like this piece of art, you're an idiot for liking this piece of art. Well, it's completely up to the individual. But on the other hand, I think you can objectively assess the quality of a piece of art. So For something like, well, for poetry, for example, a lot of the poems that I've read in these studies, they're not very beautiful. They seem to be puzzles for academics. So it's quite, a lot of them are quite written, or a lot of them are written quite in a quite ugly way, but they have this hidden meaning. But for me, the hidden meaning doesn't make them any better. It's just kind of a challenge to find the meaning, and I don't think that makes the poem any better. That's just a puzzle. I think a poem generally should appeal to a wide audience, just as music does, or just as a story does. I think the older poems, like some of Shakespeare's poems, most people can understand those. They can understand the meaning, and when you read it, even if you don't understand the meaning, because they're written so eloquently, you can appreciate the sort of rhythm. So they're entertaining for two reasons, and the meaning in them is quite, like I say, quite easy to understand, but also quite, that doesn't diminish them. It just means that, well, it's easy to understand. Which is no worse. I think it's probably better to have one simple meaning than various meanings that sort of, I wouldn't say conflict, but are quite complicated and are based on your opinion, really, whether or not you actually believe in them. So moving on to the rigging that's slightly more complicated. Once again, I apologise for some of the sort of erratic movement to the camera, but yeah, I don't know what to say about this. Just try your best with it, I guess. It's not too hard. You can see you can kind of just follow the video and say, well, I need a line that connects from here to here. But some poems I like. Obviously, males generally don't like poetry as much as females. It's funny because Shakespeare, I'm probably not allowed to say that word, but because of the YouTube like censorship algorithm. Yeah, I can't think of a replacement for that word. He liked men. I can phrase it in that way, which isn't surprising to me. I think it generally takes a more kind of feminine mind to produce poetry. It really depends. But yeah, females generally like that topic a little bit more. Obviously men prefer more functional things like engineering. I just felt when I was thinking about improving my career prospects, I didn't really like the idea of engineering. I know that I'm suited to it in a way, but I just felt no passion for the subject. So yeah, obviously I'm interested in mechanical things, like I mentioned earlier. I'm interested in computers, obviously I'm interested in ships, surprise surprise, cars as well. I'm not too knowledgeable about cars, honestly. I'm improving my knowledge on them now, but it's going to take me some time to really become familiar with the workings of cars and those kind of vehicles. I used to, for this sort of rigging, I used to use glass a lot. I was inspired by this person called Silhouette, who made a lot of good ships quite a few years ago now. I included some of his ships in my best builds of the decade. He was one of the, or he was the best at the time. I feel like, I don't know, this is a bit arrogant maybe, but I'm on his level now. I wasn't at the time. I was pretty, my ships were pretty bad. My builds were pretty bad, honestly. I don't think I have, like, I'm not the most talented person, but I like to work on things quite consistently, and every time I make something I assess what went right, what went wrong. I think as well, talking about how YouTube makes you better, or how just doing this kind of thing makes you a better person. I think it makes you more resilient to negative comments. It gives you the ability to actually use them in a constructive way. So some people, even if you give them constructive criticism, they take it really badly. To some extent, it doesn't matter if you just receive insults. It's obviously going to negatively affect you in some way. But the ability to use criticism constructively, or to use constructive criticism constructively, it has to be learnt. If you're just, I think it's a problem with schools now, to some extent, or at least in my country, in the UK, children aren't criticised enough in some ways. A lot of children, this is particularly a problem with the parents. They're told that they're special, which is actually, in the US, apparently narcissism is actually increasing. And I think that will be the same in the UK because of these kind of you're special strategies used by schools and parents. The idea that if you participate, you're a winner as well, which for someone like me, I'm quite a competitive person. That's a terrible thing to say because I just want to win. And I know if someone says, if I win the race, or if I come second, I come in, finish in a good position. And then someone who's not tried very hard, they're just walking. Let's say if it's a running race, they're just walking the 1500 meters, and they get, a medal, a participation medal. I feel that that's really wrong. You need to learn at an early age how to lose well. You're not going to get everything that you want in life. Talking about running, I remember in primary school when I was about, how old would I be? Maybe 7. I did this cross country for the first time. I was starting this cross country race with about maybe 100 other boys, and just as the whistle went or whatever to start the race, some other boy kind of kicked me on the back of my leg, or stood on my leg. So I basically got trampled on, and then sounds really pathetic this, but I had to catch up to them, but I realised my leg was kind of my muscle was damaged in some way, so I just had to pull out the race. But I remember being quite disappointed with that, not even able to compete. But yeah, I'm really good at running now. I run every day. I could run a mile under 5 minutes, which is fairly good. I'm not amazing, but I'm pretty good. So I feel like if there was another race today, I would beat 99% of those people. So beginning with the sails, this is going to be quite a complicated stage, I think. So you can see you can hear the audio is not quite right. It's because the length of the audio clip, the OGG file, was it's quite long. So I had to kind of cut off part of it to make it work in reverse. If that makes any sense, but hopefully that doesn't matter too much. You can see I'm showing you the shape, but really, I know I say this with every stage, but it really doesn't matter if you don't get this block for block. That you won't be able to get this block for block. Just make it look a little bit like mine. I expect some of you won't even bother with this stage. You might just have it in the dock, anchored down. I was never very good at long distance running. I'm quite good at it now, but when I was younger, I wouldn't say I was overweight, but I wasn't slim. I was quite fit, but I was on the like heavier side of the spectrum. Just too much muscle, I guess. But yeah, that meant I was quite good at sprinting, but not very good at long distance. Now I'm kind of more balanced. I can do either. The furthest I run is about 8 miles there. I don't run any further than that. It's not like I do marathons or even half marathons. Sorry about that, like, camera flick then. I'm not doing that deliberately. I know a lot of people that aren't listening to my apologies will think, well, why is he doing that? That's just moronic. But it's because I find it hard to concentrate for so long to keep the camera like sort of coordinated. You see, like that. Obviously, if you watch that without it being reversed, so if you reverse this, it looks normal because I've completed the action and then I switch over to the the review, but in reverse it just looks like I'm being ridiculous. So that's the main square sail. You see, you want a shape like that. Pretty simple, I think. So sails was something that I always struggled with, getting them to look right. I don't know what it is. I think it's the layers. The layers often look ugly, and I always used to copy or try and imitate the way that Silhouette made his. But I was never able to do that fully because basically we're all different. I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but it's true. Everyone thinks slightly differently, so coming out with your own method of doing things, I think, is far better than copying someone else. Obviously, to an extent, you want to be inspired, take inspiration from other people, but then use that in your own method rather than just completely copying someone else's. I think that way, obviously, you actually learn as well, which is better in the long run. Obviously, I'm using black wool and a mixture of, I think that's grey concrete or grey terracotta. I think it's grey concrete actually, to do the patches, but you can add those in at any point. You can even add holes in the sail if you want to. Personally, I chose not to do that, but it's an option for you, I guess. Whilst I'm doing this kind of college work at the same time I'm having to do study maths, because I never actually got my maths. They're called GCSEs in the UK. I just didn't take the exam for whatever reason. But I've always been quite good at maths, and it hasn't taken me too long to relearn how to do it. Quite good at trigonometry now. I know it's quite low level, but I don't mind doing it in a way. It's like, well, relaxing to a certain extent. It's a bit like doing Sudoku. I don't really like Sudoku, but I'm not sure if you have that in the US. But it's basically just a small puzzle. It's funny, I'm assuming most of you are from the US. I think only a third of you are from the US. A lot of you are from like Asia or, elsewhere in the world. A few other Europeans. So that's the first square sail. And various YouTube videos are helping me with that as well. There's a lot of good content on YouTube, I think. In a lot of ways, there are quite a few problems with YouTube, but then it's a very good educational tool, YouTube. One of the problems with education is there are only so many clever, kind people in the world, and so there are only going to be so many teachers that are going to be good teachers. You can't just magically make someone who isn't very kind and isn't very clever. You can't make them into a good teacher. And in the same way, you can't make a student that doesn't want to learn into a good student. So I can't really remember what the point I was going to make, but what the point I was going to make was, I think it's probably better for a lot of people just to learn on their own, just read a book, basically self-education, rather than expecting the education system to do it all for you or do most of it for you. I think the majority of your learning is going to occur, or even your academic learning is going to occur outside of school or college, or obviously in the UK we call it university. The idea that you just have to rely on yourself rather than someone else. I think that's just a good way of looking at things. Don't blame. Yeah, you can blame the teacher. I suppose if the teacher's bad, they're just wasting your time. But I think you have to take, or you should take, responsibility for your own education, your own life. Like a lot of people rely on other people to affect their life, but really, and I'm keeping this quite vague because I'm concerned about talking about certain naughty topics, I guess. But a lot of people, they rely on other people to do things for them, but the person you have to rely on the most is yourself. If you want to lose weight or educate yourself, or make a change in your life, don't point the finger at other people, just get it done yourself. Obviously, sometimes we do need help. I think I'm really lucky with the friends that I've got. I've made a lot of good friends in college recently as well. And it's amazing really how kind people can be. A lot of people are very unkind in the world, but I think the vast majority of people, if you're good to them, they'll be good to you. So yeah, my friends are really good. I've had them for, it's funny, one of them I've known for, well, since I was 4. So I've known him for many, many years. And the others I've known for quite a few years as well. One of those people that don't make a lot of friends, really. But the ones I do make, do tend to, well, stay with them for quite a while. To be fair, a lot of people annoy me. I suppose that's the same with anyone. Like, doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have people that are incompatible with you. I think most people are probably incompatible. It's interesting, I talk to just strangers a lot more than I used to as well. I think it's interesting because when you talk to a stranger, whether you're on, let's say if you go to, I suppose you have to talk to strangers when you go on a holiday abroad, or just people that you don't know around the area that you live. It's quite interesting to see what they know, to hear what they know. This guy started talking to me before when I was out on a walk. He sounded a bit psychotic, to be honest, but hearing him talking about how the pigeons were keeping him up and how, because he hadn't had enough sleep, he developed this cyst on his neck. I found that quite interesting. He was a bit crazy, honestly, but yeah, I don't mind. I think it is interesting to see or to hear what other people think. So, almost finished these square sails now. Again, connecting them to the hull using those gates. Trying to think of something to say now. It's hard because, like I said, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything that's not PG. It's not like I'm not the sort of person that just swears constantly, but a lot of the topics that I do talk about would be inappropriate for this kind of setting. You can see the shape there again. A few people have asked me why don't I do a modern ship, a destroyer or something, but there are so many good modern ships already on like Planet Minecraft, so I really don't see the point of that. If I was going to do any ship, any sort of semi-modern ship, it would be an ironclad. Very few people have done an ironclad. I know I did one ages ago, but that was, well, it's pretty bad by my standards now. So if you're thinking about doing a ship, quite an original ship, do an ironclad. Maybe don't do the HMS Warrior like I did, because that's just way too big. I definitely wouldn't do the interior for that ship. Do something like those kind of French class ones that were quite small, something like that. I know a few people have done like steampunk ships, but I don't think anyone's done like a proper ironclad. Maybe I'll make one, it depends, see how this goes. I don't really know what I want to do with the channel, honestly. Or when I say that, I just think, well, I'll take it step by step. Like I say, we're in lockdown now, so I may as well make these. And honestly, they don't really take too much effort to make. Like I say, when I'm building these kind of things, it's sort of therapeutic. I put some music on, or I put some like audiobook on, and just slowly build some kind of structure. And then the tutorials, they kind of help me to, like, well, maintain my communication skills, I guess. So, yeah, let's think about that. Do some more statues. I was thinking about making a dragon skeleton. I think I'll definitely make that, because for whatever reason, people seem to like dragons a lot. I do, I've made 3 dragon tutorials and all of them are quite popular, particularly one. It's nice to see that, honestly. Well, it's obviously nice to see it. Because I do spend, when I say it's like relatively easy, it doesn't mean that I don't work hard on them. It's just, I kind of enjoy the hard work making them. I suppose that makes it a lot easier. Yeah, a dragon skeleton. If you've ever played Borderlands, when you walk through the game Borderlands, you'll often see these skeletons, these massive skeletons, and I like the idea of making something like that in Minecraft. Making a tutorial for that, so if you're in a survival world and you want to make it look kind of epic, you can build this dragon skeleton as if this like massive creatures, well, died a few decades ago. I haven't actually played Borderlands 3. I don't really play too many video games anymore, but I have to get Borderlands 3 at some point, definitely. I've got this new computer now, so there's no reason not to get it. It's just unfortunate because my friend's computer's broken for whatever reason. It's ironic because I was saying, oh yeah, computers are fairly easy to maintain. But his computer's not working. Maybe when he gets that fixed, play some Borderlands with him. It's one of those games that I'll look back on and it will remind me of my childhood, because the first one came out in 2009. I remember thinking, oh, this looks like a good game when I was 12, 13. Went around to my friend's house. My friend used to have or his family used to have a Chinese restaurant. So we'd go through the front. My other friend and I would go through the front, and I think the customers would kind of look they'd look surprised. Who are these white boys going through to this Chinese restaurant? Then we'd go up to his room and he'd have the PlayStation 3, Borderlands 1 on the TV. It's good memories, but it's moved away now, so I can't just go into that Chinese restaurant anymore. Yeah, it's kind of nice to, when I'm walking around, when I go for a run, I'll often walk back to the house. But it's nice to think back to like past events. I usually seem to view them quite positively, even if they were negative. Like I didn't really like school, but when I think back to it now, I miss it in a way. I miss having many people of the same age as me in the same in the same area. When you get older, it's a lot harder to find yourself in a situation like that. But then you do have problems like teachers. Some teachers in my school were quite, I wouldn't say horrible to me, but they weren't very respectful, as you'd expect. And yeah, I don't like that. I'm never disrespected really by people of my own age group, which is what you generally expect when you hear about school problems. You don't expect the teacher to be the biggest problem. It's usually the other students bullying one another. I didn't really experience that very much. I think my school was fairly good. My area wasn't too rough. I didn't go to an inner city school, so obviously there were cases of sort of mild bullying, but nothing too bad. So the last square sale. I think I'll end this little like audio clip now. Give myself a break. But I think that's it. That's okay. So onto the spas, or not the spas, the stay sales. So onto the stay sales. I've just realised the video is not actually almost 3 hours long. It's almost 2 hours long. For some reason, the recording software that I use, or the editing software that I use, it seems to add on an extra hour to the timer. But this is actually the mise-en-sail. I was wondering why 3 hours seems to have passed a little bit fast. Yeah, that's a bit stupid of me. Again, using the same sort of colours, so black wall and then various grey blocks for the patches there. But you can see that's quite a simple shape, obviously, and yeah. I imagine even in survival it will be easy to do this. It's just gathering the blocks that might be quite hard, but I don't know. I suppose if you want to make something like the Black Pearl, I'm guessing you already have quite a few resources at your disposal anyway, so maybe it won't be too hard. I hope this commentary's been okay. Hope I haven't embarrassed myself too much, rambling on about random stuff really. It is quite hard. It's like when you're speaking in a one-on-one, generally I'm quite good, but it's a little bit difficult when it's a 1 and 0. When it's just me in a room speaking to myself almost, it's a little bit odd. Usually I'll work off the other person's input, and they'll do the same to me obviously. It really is interesting what people have to say, just like random people. I was speaking to this girl about, I can't remember now, and she brought up the fact that she is interested in stars, and looking at this person, you wouldn't imagine she'd be interested in that, honestly. It was quite a surprise. It was the scale of the universe that she was kind of mesmerised by. Obviously, it's quite big, to say the least, the universe. Apparently there are more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on all of Earth's beaches. It's just quite mad, really, because when you think of Earth's beaches, well, a beach is quite a big thing, and a grain of sand is a very small thing, so you can kind of imagine, like, if you pick up a grasp full of sand, there are a lot of grains of sand in that graspful, so it's just mad to think that there are that many stars. I don't think we know if the universe is actually infinite or not. I don't think we have the technology to make a definitive answer there. I've always been interested in, actually at an early age I was mostly interested in natural history, so things like dinosaurs, and it wasn't until my kind of late teenage years I really became interested in things like physics. When I say physics, I don't mean the kind of academic study of physics, I mean learning about the universe, learning about the stars. I think that's really interesting. It's obviously a lot harder when you're in an academic setting. You have to do all kinds of mathematical calculations, which aren't the most fun, to be honest, but I think to have a general understanding of where we've come from. I know quite a few people still reject the theory of evolution, and I think, well, personally I believe in the theory of evolution, but I can understand why people don't believe in it, especially if they're religious. It is quite a complex thing. It's strange to think that a human eye has evolved from just light sensitive cells, or the human brain. It's very strange. Apparently the human brain is the most complex object in the universe. Interesting fact for you. So moving on to I think these stay sails are called jib sails. The ones at the front. Yeah, these are really easy to make, so should have no problems with these. So coming to the end of this tutorial, I'm glad it wasn't 3 hours, honestly, because I feel stupid for thinking it was 3. And the last sail. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Hope it was okay. Like I said, I hope the commentary has been reasonably, I wouldn't say entertaining. I think maybe it's just good to have a consistent voice throughout to fill in the gaps, and this way I can just, like I said, check for any errors in the video and talk you through pretty much every stage. I think some stages are pretty self-explanatory, so that's why I've rambled about random things, but yep, that's the last sail. And then you just want to attach it with a rope, again with the erratic camera switch. We're coming to the flag, I think. Yeah, sorry for that camera switch again. That was quite bad, but you just want to go to the top pole and then make the flag just like this. I might include, after this, I might include a better diagram for you, so you can make that a little bit easier. So that's it, that's the completed ship. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, guys. Let me know if you have any other tutorial recommendations for any of these ships. I have made one for this one. It's not quite made in the same way, really. I think this ship is a little bit too big. Oh, just this ship. I thought I had another one over here. Yeah, I think this one's a little bit too big, honestly, because, well, I don't know. It's probably about 50% bigger compared to the Black Pearl, but yeah, if you really want that, I suppose I could make it. Not the interior though, that's just too much effort, but yeah, thanks for any nice comments. I really do appreciate those.